I'm Angie, and I love my HBCU. So I went to the one, the only, the Mecca, Howard University. Can I get an HU? You? No? Being from gorgeous Prince George's County, Maryland, and the DC area, which is considered, or was pre-gentrification, considered Chocolate City. I have been raised around black people. My community was all black, and so I wanted nothing more than to not attend an HBCU. I didn't think at the time as a teenager that HBCUs were realistic, right? Like I don't know where I got this thought process, but at 17, I thought I wouldn't be able to survive because I had been around so many black people, and that just wasn't realistic. I felt that if I was going to make it in the corporate world, or if I was going to make it in the world, I needed to be around more white people. So I actually did not want to attend an HBCU. My mother went to Howard. My aunts went to Howard. I've been to every Howard homecoming. So Howard certainly wasn't on my list. At the time, I was looking at Syracuse. I was looking at Temple University because of its diversity, and University of Maryland because they had a great school of journalism and were close to home. So yeah, HBCUs weren't really at the top of my list, even though my whole family we're all lovers of HBCUs. So how surprising is it that I ended up at Howard? You're probably wondering, how the hell did you choose Howard? It's an interesting story. Best part of my HBCU experience was friendships, people. It's just so much, I guess. It's hard to really pinpoint what's the best part of a HBCU because you go through so many things. It's such a period of growth individually, but also being in that environment. One of the biggest things I'm grateful for is that I felt like it was such a family atmosphere. Like it felt big and small at the same time because the people had these big ideas and big thoughts and big concepts of who they were and who they wanted to be. And so it felt big, but, compared to other schools, a lot of HBCUs are relatively small. Howard isn't really that big, so you still got a very family atmosphere. It was still very endearing. I always felt like I knew people, or at least I knew their faces. So best thing I got out of my experience, for me, I would say is a great jump start to my career in radio, because Howard has the best homecoming ever. And so the fact that I got the chance to host it, and I think I started hosting it right before I graduated. So I started hosting in like 2005, and I think I had like a good 10-year run of just hosting Howard's homecoming, the Yard Fest. But if it weren't for things like that, opportunities like that, and being able to network with friends from all over the world, I don't know if I'd be where I am today. Howard showed me how diverse black people are. I think a lot of people think when you talk at HBCU or a black school, you get no diversity. And that goes back to what I said earlier about being a young person who was from a predominantly black area. I felt that I needed to, if I wasn't around white people, I wouldn't know how to function. And that's not true, because you take away color, people are people. And that was the number one thing I learned at my HBCU. Was that we are not the same. So when I got there, I remember the people from Jersey spoke way different from people in my area, the DMV, spoke way differently from people from Houston, spoke way differently from Chicago and Louisiana and Florida and California. And we all had different customs. We had different cultures. We had different language. And really the only thing we did have in common was being black. So that's what makes me love HBCUs that much more, is the diversity. And I don't think that gets talked about enough. HBCUs provide a tremendous amount of diversity when it comes to understanding the differences in people. And if you can learn that people from all around the world and the country are very different, but we can all find the things that make us more common. There are just certain principles that I learned in life will serve me with anybody. And so going to Howard doesn't mean I can't function around white people. I'm perfectly comfortable around white people, black people, any type of people I'm comfortable with. And a lot of that comes from going to Howard and realizing how different we all were. Contemplating an HBCU, number one thing you need to think about is your tolerance level. what are you able to tolerate? HBCUs are very unique experiences, and they're not for everybody, just like a PWI. All schools are not for everybody, so you need to really evaluate the type of person you are and what you can handle and what you can deal with. I know for me at Howard, organization and being able to keep a calm head and find other routes was very important in my survival at Howard, because things aren't just laid out for you. Things aren't just perfect. So I really had to learn how to get creative. And I think that was a good thing in a way. It's kind of like taking something that for a lot of people, you wouldn't tolerate that. But for me and for a fellow Howard alum that I know, we got very creative with how we solved problems, because there were many a problem. We had to get creative with problem solving. We had to get, you had to learn when to like take a stand and when to, say, nah, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, and kind of forcefully change things, but also get involved and build relationships. I learned a lot about building relationships. So when I wanted a certain type of housing, you know what I did? I made sure I was cool with the dean of housing, and I made sure that I was active at Howard. I made sure I was involved at Howard, and that I knew the right people, and that the right people knew me, because when it comes to life, and I think this is a life thing, in life, you're going to need some favors, and you're going to need some important people. And so being at Howard taught me how to find the right people, and make sure that I had positive relationships with everybody, because you never know who will be in a position of power to help you. So again, factor in what can you tolerate before you go to a HBCU or any school. I think that's a very important piece. The other thing, to me, when it comes to contemplating an HBCU, don't get caught up in that idea that going to a black school is less than anything else. I hear that a lot, that, a degree from a black school isn't taking it seriously as a degree from wherever. Let me tell you this. When I went for internships and things, they would see at Howard University, I was a Howard University student, say, oh, my last 10 interns were Howard students, and they were awesome. So yeah, bring you in. There are a lot of HBCU alum out here that are doing major things, and part of their trailblazing is a reason why you'll get into a lot of rooms and get a lot of opportunities that others won't get. So HBCUs are incredible networks as well. So factor that in, and don't allow these myths and people who have never attended HBCUs or graduated from HBCUs, or people who had these bad, they had some sort of bad experience, so now they hate everything HBCU. Be very careful who you talk to about HBCUs, because people's experiences are different. So get a multitude of opinions. For everyone that may think it's a bad idea, talk to people who think it's a great idea. And most importantly, most importantly, I learned this on my picking schools process as a senior in high school. Go visit the school. What changed me completely when it came to going to Howard University, what it came down to for me was opportunity. I knew at 17 that I wanted to do radio. I wanted to go to a school that was going to best position me to do radio. And I remember I went to Syracuse, I went to Temple, I went to all these schools, University of Maryland, and all of them were so big that a lot of them will be like, well, you probably can't get into the television or the radio side for at least your first semester or your first year. Howard not only had a commercial radio station with 96.3 WHUR, Howard also had a student station, a television station, and they were the only school that I went to that said you could get started today. And that ultimately is what made me say, I'm going to Howard. Not that it was a black school, not that my mom and them went there, but ultimately it was the best opportunity for me as far as positioning me to do what I'm doing today. And looks like it worked out well. Looks like I made a great decision.